It's been about 9 months since the Insta360 GO 2 release back in March. I've been shooting with it a lot since then, plus it's received some pretty cool software updates along the way that I want to update you on too, as well as a new hardware version. So let's cover what I love about this camera and why I think it's a worthy succession to the original GO, which I also loved, and why it now might be the best all-round action camera you can buy at the end of 2021 and well into 2022 too. Oh, and keep watching to the end and I'll share the biggest mistake that I think Insta360 made when upgrading the GO to the GO 2, and they still haven't fixed it. First, let's talk about the new hardware system, because it is a system. It's no longer just a tiny little camera smaller than your thumb that packs an oversized punch in its capability. Whereas the original GO case looked good but didn't really do a lot other than charge the camera and threaten to lose its lid, the new case is like comparing a MacBook Pro to a pocket calculator. Insta360 clearly had a vision for the function of the case, seeing a missing link between the camera and the app. The case has now been developed so you can access the majority of the features of the GO 2 using the built-in screen and make selections through the system into the case itself. This now means you can use the GO 2 in its more complex modes without taking your phone out of your pocket at all to access the app. You just select the mode with the GO 2 in or out of the case, mount it elsewhere, and that's all you need to do. This in itself is an incredible feature that lets you use your GO 2 in more ways with more freedom. And it feels nice too, with this Apple iPods Pro kind of feel and design. Though the plastic is a little flimsier than I would like, I actually prefer the matte finish I saw in the pre-production copy rather than this glossy finish. This feels kind of slippery and makes me scared that I'm going to drop it, though I haven't yet. Let's hope I haven't just jinxed it. With the camera, you get a great ultra wide perspective and a nice bright f2.2 aperture lens. You get a lens protector for the GO 2, which is tiny, cheap and replaceable and screws on with a tiny little thread. You can capture video in several modes, including basic stabilization and the trademark Insta360 silky smooth flow state stabilization. And there's also an updated slow motion mode which now records at an improved 120 frames per second and outputs at a full 1080p instead of the 720p of the GO. Combined with the 80 Mbps capture, this is a vastly improved experience, complete with basic stabilization that works well and competes with pretty much anything out there in its class. And there's also an HDR video mode too, which is remarkable in a camera that only weighs 26.5 grams. The GO 2 is waterproof to 4 meters, whereas the previous GO was water resistant for up to 10 seconds only. For me, this means I can get some cool shots and don't have to worry about everyday stuff like rain or splashes from puddles or when I'm on the beach. The battery life for the camera has been increased by a whopping 50%, meaning you now get an average of 30 minutes video time. And the case can top this up, so it can be recharged about 2.5 times. And you can also shoot direct from the case, which acts as a kind of handheld shooting stabilizer, or it can even function as a tripod for time lapses or vlogging. Or you can use the screw thread to mount it onto a more stable tripod. Instead of 8GB storage on the camera like the original GO, you now get 32GB, 28GB of which is usable. The rest is for firmware and other stuff needed to make this camera work. This is an incredible improvement for the standard GO 2, but there's more. There's now a 64GB edition, meaning even more storage. Now the resolution for video used in the camera is totally satisfactory. It's now 1440p recorded at H.264. And not only that, but like I said, it records at an incredible 80 Mbps. And actually it's better than satisfactory. It looks really good. I'd say it's better than just social media good. I'd say you can use this in YouTube videos too as part of your camera kit to get some great B-roll and a good little vlogging solution too. The mic isn't fantastic, but it's certainly good enough. And the color science is great too, with 3 choices to select from, including Vivid, which has GoPro-like colors, and a more muted standard color palette that many people actually prefer, and it even shoots in log. for color grading later. You can get a great deal of manual control over the camera if you want it, as well as the amazing feature of being able to choose the export size and shape that in post-processing, meaning you just have to shoot once and you can use the footage in portrait for Instagram or TikTok and landscape for YouTube and other stuff. You can choose after shooting. Nobody else gives you that. You can choose different views in post too. The 35mm equivalent focal length for the lens on the Go 2 is 11.24mm, which is considered to be ultra wide as a field of view. But you now have more choices of field of view to choose from for many of the functions on the Go 2, from that ultra wide to a narrower field of view called action camera to linear, and then punching in to a much more narrow point of view. You can capture great time lapses and hyperlapses called time shift by Insta360. These are flexible modes that just work really well. And the reframing capability in the app means you can get motion time lapses with no gimbal required. Check out my tutorial in the video description to find out how. Next, let's talk about magnets. The magnets are definitely stronger on the Go 2, and that's a good thing. You can get a good fix on the hat clip mount, but note it works in one orientation and not the other. You get a big repel feel if you try and do it the other way. You can feel it, so you're unlikely to make a mistake there. The magnetic back makes it convenient to mount on things like the fridge or street lamps and poles, and the pendant is a strong magnetic attachment too. They've also put the outline of the camera on the pendant so you can be sure which side is supposed to be facing outwards. It's fine to attach through normal clothing, but the magnet strength will be weakened if you've got a bit of a thick hoodie on or something like that. What it doesn't cope well with is that sideways knock. The camera can be easily dislodged like that, and I've lost count of the number of times I nearly lost it because it got knocked off when I lifted one of my kids out of the swing, and I didn't notice, only to run back once I'd loaded up the car to find it at the base of the swing. So yeah, watch out for that. What I found is that sticking it on my cap mount stops that from happening, and it also leaves my hands free too. But here's another tip. Mount it upside down on the chest mount, and it cuts out the risk of that shot when you're capturing the underside of your chin as well as what it is that you're trying to film. The pivot mount is a great addition, especially with this sticky back, which means you can pretty much put it anywhere, from capturing food shots to sticking it under your skateboard to get some cool different shots there too. Whereas the camera in the original Go had to be in its case for you to sync any content, this is no longer true. You can grab footage from your camera directly using the app, bypassing the case, but better make it short and quick, because although the battery life is much improved, it's still a very small camera and it won't last that long. Now, let's talk about software. Insta360 recently updated their already industry-leading app with a design refresh and improved workflow. And for me, the new improved UI is much better and has a really cohesive feel, like it's come together like your phone's standard camera app. It just kind of works. It controls loading up, scrubbing and processing, and all of that seems to have improved a lot in terms of times and responsiveness. There's even precise trimming of clips and zooming in on the timeline for easier editing. And if you've got a small phone or you're trying to do it quickly, this makes the whole experience just much more fun to shoot with. It's simple to click and record straight away, and then just as easy to get the footage off your camera and into your camera roll processed and ready to share. Another feature that I've really appreciated with the Go 2 is you now also have a live view. You can see what you're going to shoot as you're shooting it. What else is that I've seen these past 9 months? I don't use it myself for this, but the new mount set means that you can use it more easily on an FPV drone if that's your thing. With the increased shooting time, many people seem to have adopted the Go 2 to fly on their drones. Now, onto some stuff that I pay attention to and what I'd like Insta360 to fix. First, this thing gets hot. The case and the camera. I'm assured that this should still be okay when the Go 2 is firmly in its mount, but be aware that after using it, especially for a few minutes continuously, you probably don't want to put this naked into your pocket or against your skin. The camera itself really does get pretty hot. Some people have experienced overheating shutdowns of their camera until it cools down again, but this isn't a problem I've personally run into. What I've been told is that this black strip here and the fact that the Go 2 is slightly bigger helps the camera to dissipate its heat more easily than the smaller Go. But like I said, it does get hot, so be careful about that. And here's the big missing feature. Where, oh where, has Insta360 put the interval video function? On the original Go, this was cool. I could just set it to capture 15-second clips every 5 minutes or so as I was moving about my day or hanging out with my kids. I could then look at the footage at the end of the day and then use something like Flash Cut or do it myself to make a video. It's kind of like an autopilot capture feature, which means that when I'm just doing stuff, I don't have to remember to hit record. The camera is doing it for me to a set schedule. I found this really useful, and I know a lot of my regular viewers did too. I can't understand why Insta360 got rid of it, and I'd really like them to bring it back. It's definitely my biggest disappointment about the upgrade from the original Go, and it is a feature that set it apart from any other camera. Having said that, if people ask me what action camera they should get, I pretty much always suggest the Go 2 because I still think it's the camera with the most versatility for lots of different uses. It's also not badly priced for what you can do with it. To be honest, there's probably nothing else like it. Thanks for watching. You might like this video next, and I'll see you on the next show.